Welcome, Gunrunner.
It's certainly become clear to me that when it comes to my amazing facts videos, you guys just can't get enough Sega. I've already done videos on the SG-1000, Mega Drive, 32X, Saturn and Dreamcast, and now we can add the Mega CD to that prestigious list, as it just won my latest poll very convincingly, beating out the Amstrad GX 4000, which was a distant second, as well as the Neo Geo Pocket, Deus MX and Emerson Arcadia 2001. First released in Japan in December 1991, the Mega CD was the Mega Drive's very first add-on, and what many people point to as the start of Sega's downfall. Renamed the Sega CD in North America, due to the Mega Drive also being renamed the Genesis in that region, it first hit the West just over a year later in October 1992, and then 6 months later in PAL regions, where it reverted back to the Mega CD name of course. A very late Brazilian release followed in October 1993 also. The original model of the Mega CD was designed to sit underneath the Mega Drive unit and featured a motor operated slide out tray as well as a large display panel on the front. As the Mega Drive was redesigned to a smaller low cost design, so was the Mega CD, with a second model hitting Japanese stores in April 1993, with Western releases in the following months. This new model fitted onto the side of the console and could be used with the original Model 2 with the addition of an extension plate. It also dropped the display panel and now featured a manual pop-up lid on the top. The Mega CD was eventually discontinued in 1996 so Sega could concentrate on the Saturn, and with sales of 2.25 million it wasn't quite the failure that many paint it as, but the Mega CD can hardly be considered a success either. Still, it's an important part of Sega history, and that's why it very much deserves this video. So let's get going with those fascinating facts then, shall we?
How could you let that happen?
That wasn't too bad, kid.
Pretend it's a game.
I think it's best to start with this one, because I often see people saying that Sega were wrong to release the Mega CD, and don't really seem to know how it came about or why, and once you understand that, you won't question Sega's decision. It all goes back to 1988 when Sega's big Japanese rivals NEC Electronics released a Super CD-ROM add-on for their market-leading PC Engine, which had recently become the best-selling console in Japan, taking over from the Nintendo Famicom. This was the very first CD-based expansion for home console and was an instant success, despite the high price. The funny thing about this add-on is that it didn't actually improve the base hardware aside from offering extra storage and the ability to play music directly from the CD. NEC did create a series of system cards for the main unit, however, that when plugged in added extra RAM. There were 3 of these in total that went up to a maximum of 2 MB. The success of both the PC Engine and the Super CD-ROM add-on saw Sega look on with envious eyes. The Mega Drive was really struggling in Japan and they needed a way to boost its sales. They came up with the Mega CD as the answer, and you can certainly see their thinking given the success that NEC had experienced, even if they didn't get quite the same result. The Mega CD was originally intended to equal the capabilities of the aforementioned PC Engine Super CD-ROM, but with twice as much RAM. However, 2 major changes were made towards the end of the development cycle that dramatically raised the proposed price of the add-on. It was at this stage that Chief Engineer Tomio Takami and his team discovered that the Mega Drive's Motorola 68000 CPU was too slow to handle the Mega CD's extended graphical capabilities, which included scaling and rotation, as well as the ability to play full motion video. To fix this problem, an additional 68000 CPU was incorporated into the Mega CD's design, meaning the hardware could now use both Motorola CPUs at once. The second CPU also has a clock speed of 12.5 MHz, making it nearly twice as fast as the 7.6 MHz chips in the base hardware. This seems to actually be a running theme with Sega hardware, because the base Mega Drive console also had a second CPU already, of course, in the form of the Zilog Z80, which was not only there to give it backwards compatibility with the Master System, but also to help out with menial tasks such as driving the sound chip. Many programmers have stated that the Z80 was also useful for doing 3D games on the Mega Drive, helping with the math involved, an area where the Sega 16-bitter had the edge over the rival Super Nintendo. Of course, the 32X add-on and the Sega Saturn would also feature a twin CPU setup, continuing this interesting design philosophy even further. The feature that was most lauded by Sega when it came to their new CD add-on was the ability to do full motion video. This was touted as the next big thing in gaming, and Sega, along with partners Digital Pictures, pumped a huge amount of money into delivering so-called interactive movies as well as FMV based games. Notable examples include Night Trap, Tomcat Alley, Sewer Shark, Prize Fighter and the Make My Video series. However, as cool as this concept was at the time, there were a number of huge problems with the concept that were partly down to the restrictions of the hardware on offer, and partly down to the restrictions of the software too. On the first of those points, we have the issue that the Mega CD offered absolutely no enhancements with regards to the Mega Drive's core graphical capabilities, with the same resolution, same palette, and same number of colours on screen. This meant that the Mega CD's full motion video looked very grainy indeed, played in a small window, and was quite indistinct and hard to make out at times. Programmers did later find ways to improve this slightly, such as using black and white only footage, as seen in Prize Fighter for example, or the full screen video of Tomcat Alley, but it was always a big issue and it makes you wonder why Sega focused on it so much, especially when you consider my second point too. And that's the fact that FMV was very limited in what you could actually do with it, as you were just playing sections of video, making the level of interactivity very low indeed. It was impossible to make a proper arcade style game with video only, and that meant FMV games got boring pretty quickly, especially as you were watching the same video clips over and over again. Clearly inspired by the release of the NEC Turbo Duo, an all-in-one PC Engine and Super CD-ROM console that hit the market the year before, Sega set about developing a combined Mega Drive and Mega CD console too. This was a welcome announcement because the original combo was a pretty bulky setup, with the console sitting on top of the large CD unit. However, after the less than stellar response to the Mega CD, Sega had a bit of a change of heart, and instead handed the technology over to the Victor Company of Japan, better known to us in the West as JVC. The Victor WonderMega was first released in Japan in 1992, and as well as combining both units into one, it also offered up a number of quite interesting upgrades on the existing technology. By far the biggest upgrade was the addition of a digital signal processor. The DSP chip greatly enhanced the audio quality, as well as giving access to a MIDI port for connecting up keyboards and other electronic instruments. It also allowed you to hook up two microphones to use the WonderMega as a karaoke machine, and they even included a karaoke disc with the system to get you started. This wasn't all though, as there were also some more minor upgrades, including better audio and video output, a motorised pop-up disc tray, and on later models, wireless controllers too. Rather bizarrely, Sega would soon come back to their baby by releasing their own Sega branded versions of the WonderMega, although these are much more unusual. Even more bizarrely, it took Victor 2 years to bring the console to North America, where it was renamed as the rather strange sounding JVC X'EYE. It never got a European release at all, sadly. Numerous different revisions of the WonderMega and X'EYE were produced until it was finally discontinued in 1995, but none of them ever sold in high numbers. The WonderMega was never anything more than a high-end, high-priced curiosity for most people, or those with money to burn. There were never any games released that took advantage of the WonderMega's extra hardware despite promises to the contrary, which is a great shame as there was clearly a lot of potential to create early versions of things like Just Sing and the Guitar Hero franchise. I've just talked about the JVC WonderMega, so now would be the perfect time to also mention the Genesis CDX, or Multi-Mega for those of you in Europe. As you might have guessed from that last statement, this unit was very much designed with the West in mind, launching in all territories simultaneously in 1994, this time by Sega themselves rather than being licensed out to somebody else. The really unique thing about the CDX was its compact design, that meant it could be used as a portable CD player as well as a home console with the option to run it from batteries or a car charger, as well as regular power supply. Because of this ability, the unit came with a headphone socket and individual volume control, much like the original Mega Drive model in fact, and also a line out so it could be connected to a hi-fi or amplifier. The other small extra is the tiny LCD screen on the top to display the track number, which appears next to all the other regular buttons and controller ports. In all cases, the unit was packaged with a 6-button controller, AC adapter and TV cable. The bundle included the Sega Classics Arcade Collection or CD, which comprised the Streets of Rage, Columns, Super Monaco GP and Revenge of Shinobi and Golden Axe, as well as Sonic CD and Echo the Dolphin. In Brazil, where it was marketed by Tectoy, it was bundled with Night Trap instead. The CDX and WonderMega were sold for less than a year before being discontinued, with the launch of the 32X. They only sold in small numbers due to the high cost, but are now extremely sought after by collectors because of this. But we aren't quite done with talking about variations of the Mega CD hardware just yet, because there is another incredibly interesting one that I need to mention right here, one that I've actually talked about on the channel before in fact, in my amazing facts video on the Pioneer LaserActive, which I've linked for you down in the description if you want to know more. Although the Pioneer LaserActive could very much be used as a standalone multimedia system, the addition of what Pioneer called packs would be an integral part of the setup and a big attraction for potential customers. It's unclear what PAC actually stands for, but it's thought that it was an acronym for Pioneer Added Compatibility. There were actually 4 separate packs available that slotted into the main unit to provide a wide range of different features. But the one we need to draw attention to here is the Mega Drive pack, which gives the LaserActive full compatibility with both the Mega Drive thanks to an added cartridge slot and Mega CD. The Mega Drive pack also came bundled with specially branded variations of the 6-button controller. What's also very interesting is that one of the other packs allowed LaserActive owners to play PC Engine and Super CD-ROM games too, giving them the best of both worlds. But what is even more interesting about these packs is that most LaserActive software required one of these to be present at all times, as they used the native graphics capabilities of either the Mega Drive or PC Engine to display interactive imagery over the Laserdisc produced video. This of course meant that the LaserActive was pretty much useless for playing games without one of these packs installed. One of the key hardware improvements in the Mega CD is its ability to do hardware scaling and rotation, 2 features that were very much lauded by the Mega Drive's great rival, the Super Nintendo. However, the Sega CD add-on went one up on the SNES by being able to scale and rotate sprites as well as backgrounds, with the famous Mode 7 being restricted to manipulating background layers only. With the announcement of this new capability, people expected Sega to deliver nigh-on arcade perfect ports of all their famous super scaler games like Outrun, Afterburner, Galaxy Force, Power Drift and Space Harrier. However, Sega had other ideas as it seems, as they became obsessed with another feature of the Mega CD in FMV and didn't pay much attention to their prestigious arcade catalogue. In fact, just one super scaler game made it to the add-on, in the form of Afterburner 3, which gives you a good idea of what they could have done. This was a real missed opportunity in my opinion. That's not to say that the feature wasn't used at all though. Its core design in particular made great use of the Mega CD's scaling capabilities with games like Soulstar, Battle Corps, Thunderhawk and BC Racers. Other notable examples of the effect can be found in Taito's Night Striker, Formula 1 World Championship, the bonus stages in Sonic CD and the driving sections in Batman Returns of course. A lot of people cite the release of the Mega CD as the start of Sega's downfall, whilst others very much point the finger at the 32X add-on. Either way, it's clear that both devices were failures for the company, but without doubt one of the most baffling announcements from Sega when it came to both of these devices was that they would also be releasing a range of games that required both add-ons. Given that both the 32X and Mega CD had hardly set the world alight sales-wise, as I already alluded to, the amount of people who owned both was vanishingly small, so it just seemed so strange to waste more money and resources on games designed for both of them. In total, just 5 titles were released for the 32X CD combo: Supreme Warrior, Slam City, Corpse Killer, Fahrenheit, and a greatly enhanced version of Night Trap. None of these titles were massively impressive, but at least they showed that the Mega CD could now do proper full motion video without all those grainy pixels and colour limiting that I talked about earlier on in this video. It would be quite interesting to see what this add-on combination could do if pushed to its limits. One reason for pushing this format is that Sega did intend to create a second version of the cancelled Neptune console, a combined Mega Drive and 32X for those that don't know, that featured a CD drive. I talked about the Neptune as well as this also unreleased system in my cancelled Sega consoles video, so if you want to know more, then check out those videos. I've put a link to both of them down in the description as always. I have to say that this next tidbit of trivia is for me the most interesting part of this video, because I wasn't actually aware of this story prior to writing this script and I'm still staggered by it. I think this, more than anything else, shows what an absolute state Sega was in at this time, especially with regards to the relationship between Sega of America and Sega Enterprises in Japan, and very much sets up all the incidents that came after, many of which I went into in my existing Amazing Facts videos on the 32X, Saturn and Dreamcast. The story goes, Sega of America was not even informed of the Mega CD project until mid-1991, despite development of the add-on starting nearly 2 years previous. At this point they were only provided with the preliminary technical documents and were not given a functioning prototype that they could test and use for development purposes, despite the Japanese division having several fully functioning and finished Mega CD units precisely for this reason. According to former Sega of America executive Michael Latham, it was a total mess, with him stating the following in more recent interviews. When you work at a multinational company, there are things that go well and there are things that don't. They didn't want to send us working Sega CD units, they only wanted to send us dummies, and not send us the working CD units until the last minute, because they were concerned about what we would do with it and if we would leak it out. It was very frustrating indeed. Latham and Sega of America Vice President of Licensing Shinobu Toyoda actually ended up assembling a fully functioning Sega CD themselves by acquiring a ROM for the system and installing it in a dummy unit using the previously provided documents for reference. The American staff soon became frustrated by the Sega CD's construction, with former senior producer at SOA, Scott Bayliss, stating, "It was designed with a cheap consumer grade audio CD drive, not a CD-ROM." Quite late in the run-up to launch, the quality assurance teams started running into severe problems with many of the units. And when I say severe, I mean units literally bursting into flames. We worked around the clock trying to catch the failure in progress, and after about a week, we finally realised what was happening. The problems were caused by the need for games to use more time-seeking data than the CD drive was designed to provide. Sega of America executives were extremely annoyed at the secrecy of their parent company and the way they were snubbed with regards to the development of the Mega CD, and felt that had they been consulted, the end result would have been something a lot more impressive. They also stated that the lack of development units was also very detrimental to the software situation, as they were not able to provide dev kits to third parties. And when you consider that the vast majority of the Mega Drive's games were coming from American companies at this point, that was commercial suicide. I know this next entry is a very obvious one, and a story that I'm sure everyone watching this is well aware of, but I thought that if I didn't include it, people would complain, and it's certainly a very key part of the Mega CD story, so it probably would be wrong to leave it out. If you didn't already guess, that's the story of Night Trap. This tale actually begins after the release of the game, which came out in October 1992 to much controversy, and with the United States Congress hearing on video game violence and the marketing of violent video games to children on the 9th of December 1993. Night Trap was of course at the centre of this debate, having first been brought to the attention of United States Senator Joe Lieberman, who had previously made this statement about the game. It ends with this attack scene on a woman in lingerie in her bathroom. I know that the creator of the game said it was all meant to be a satire of Dracula, but nonetheless, I thought it sent out the wrong message. Lieberman's own research had concluded that the average video game player was between 7 and 12 years old, and that video game publishers were intentionally marketing violence to children. But this controversy wasn't just limited to the United States, as Night Trap was also discussed in the UK Parliament too. In fact, former Sega Europe development director Mike Brogan stated that Night Trap brought Sega a lot of unintentionally positive publicity, helping reinforce Sega's image as an edgy company with attitude, as opposed to Nintendo's more family-friendly image. Despite the increased sales this controversy brought, Sega ended up recalling Night Trap and released it with several revisions in 1994. Following those congressional hearings, video game manufacturers came together in 1994 to establish the unified rating system, the Entertainment Software Rating Board, or ESRB. All this resulted in Night Trap being the first game to officially receive a 15 certificate, despite the game actually being quite tame in comparison to a 15 rated film of the era.
Welcome to the next level! Hey! Is anybody out there?
How could you let that happen?
Pretend it's a game.
And that rounds up my look at 10 amazing Sega Mega CD facts. Which one of these fabulous facts was your favourite, or can you think of any other tantalising tidbits of trivia that I didn't include? I always love to hear the thoughts and views of my audience, so please get typing in that comments section. Before I go though, I must thank all of my loyal patrons for continuing to support my channel and make videos like this possible. However, I must give special thanks to the following patrons and YouTube backers in particular for their much appreciated pledges: Paul Daniel, Mins, Dos Gamerman, Luke MC, Carl Olsen, Seth Robinson, Grady Haynes, Mark Strickland, Klimatorn, Trogdor the Burninator, Daniel Skronsky, Ben P. Stein, Tabby Kitsune, Alan J. Dodds, Your Eyes Are Bleeding, David Maddox, Classic Gamer 74, and Electron Star Collapse. If you also want to help support all my creative endeavours, including this YouTube channel, then please go and check out my Patreon right now, where you can get access to extra content, including downloads, exclusive videos, creative insights, and much more besides. I've been the Laird, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you all again for another video very soon.